My name is Laura Smith. I am the Deputy Director of the New York City Department of City Planning's Transportation Division. The Transportation Division does sort of research, analysis, and policy formation around a whole host of transportation-related issues. But we're working with aging infrastructure, and we're trying to make everything continue to work for our current and growing populations. I got involved in planning really at a very, very young age. I was always really into maps. I didn't know it was something I could really pursue as a career until I got to college and I majored in urban studies. And then I went to grad school right after college for geography. And my interest in geography is sort of as an approach rather than a discipline. I really think that it's helpful to approach our planning issues from a geographical perspective. We care about where people live, where they're going to, where they want to go or need to go on a daily basis, how they get there, and why they want to go different places. As planners, we have some ability to influence these sort of decisions or options that people have. Another project that I've worked on more recently, which made a big impact, I think, in the city is something called Zoning for Quality and Affordability, or ZQA. And the goals around ZQA were primarily to facilitate the development of more housing, and specifically more affordable and senior housing. And on my end in particular, I looked at ways that our parking regulations might be either poorly aligned with existing demand, or where they might be sort of inappropriately high and inhibiting the development or creation of more housing and more affordable housing. So what we found were, not only do lower income households and senior low income households own fewer cars as an overall sort of rate of car ownership, but they also have a much harder time paying for off-street parking. And because affordable housing really is a priority of the city, we wanted to eliminate any barriers, especially barriers that were really doing very little towards creating better housing for seniors and low-income households. And so what we did was identify the areas of the city that are near transit, where car ownership rates are lowest, and made parking optional rather than required for low-income and low-income senior housing. We found that actually the cost to build 3 parking spaces equals the cost to build a single unit of housing. So for every 3 parking spaces that we no longer require, we actually can facilitate the development of an additional housing unit, which I think has a really meaningful impact on the city. The work that I'm doing now is sort of building off of what we did with CQA. We're doing something similar to try to create more job opportunities for city residents and for regional residents, and bringing job opportunities closer to the people who need work. So in order to accommodate the growing employment numbers and the growing number of New Yorkers who need jobs, we're looking again into the zoning resolution for ways that we can eliminate or reduce impediments to the creation of offices or creative manufacturing or life science buildings or medical buildings, and really make it easier for businesses to open and operate in New York City. Again, being in the transportation division, I'm taking a look at our parking requirements for these uses and hoping to realign them with actual demand, so that again, we're not forcing the developers of these types of buildings to provide something that might not be necessary for the functioning of a building or for a use.